Discussion on verses 1 to 40 of 40. This chapter opens by drawing attention to the certainty of resurrection and accountability on the Day of Judgment, an event that cannot be avoided or denied. Chapter 75 Al-Qiyamah, verse 1.
I swear by the day of resurrection.
When a person reflects on the universe, they will observe countless signs of balance and precision. The earth exists at an exact distance from the sun, allowing life to flourish. A slight variation in this distance would render it uninhabitable. Similarly, the water cycle operates with remarkable balance. Water evaporates, forms clouds, and returns as rain in a measured way that sustains all living things. The ground itself reflects this balance, being soft enough for delicate shoots to emerge and grow into crops, yet firm enough to support heavy structures. These examples, and many others, clearly indicate not only the existence of a creator, but also the presence of a precise and consistent balance within creation. However, when one turns their attention to human actions, a striking imbalance becomes evident. Many individuals who act with oppression appear to escape consequences in this world, while those who endure hardship with patience often do not receive the full reward they deserve during their lifetime. Likewise, it is often observed that those who sincerely obey Allah, the Exalted, may face trials and receive only a limited share of reward in this world, whereas those who openly disobey Him may enjoy comfort and luxury. If balance is a defining feature of creation, then it must also apply to the outcomes of human actions. Yet this balance is not fully realized in this world. Therefore, it must be completed in another stage of existence, the Day of Judgment, where every action will be accounted for with complete justice. Allah, the Exalted, has the power to fully reward and punish in this world. However, from His wisdom is that He does not do so completely here. Instead, He grants people repeated opportunities to recognize their mistakes, repent sincerely, and correct their behavior. This delay is a form of mercy, allowing individuals the chance to change before their time ends. Similarly, the full reward for those who obey Allah, the Exalted, is not granted in this world, because this life is not meant to be a place of complete recompense. It is a place of testing. The next life is where complete justice and reward will be established. Belief in what cannot be seen, such as the full reward and punishment of the next life, is a central aspect of faith. This belief requires trust and conviction beyond what is immediately visible. If all outcomes were fully realized in this world, belief would no longer carry the same significance, as it would be based solely on direct observation rather than conviction. Maintaining both fear of punishment and hope for reward in the hereafter plays a vital role in shaping a person's behavior. Fear restrains a person from committing wrong actions, while hope encourages them to perform good deeds. Together, they create a balanced approach that guides a person towards righteousness. For the day of recompense to occur, this world must come to an end. As long as actions are ongoing, final judgment cannot take place. Only when every person's actions have concluded can complete and perfect justice be delivered. This makes the end of the material world a necessary step towards the establishment of final accountability. Reflecting on these realities strengthens a person's certainty in the Day of Judgment. This, in turn, encourages them to prepare for it by using the blessings they have been granted in the correct manner, as outlined in the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Through this preparation, a person achieves peace of mind and success in both worlds, by developing a balanced mental and physical state, and by correctly placing everything and everyone within their life. Chapter 45 Al-Jatiyah, verse 22.
For Allah created the heavens and the earth for a purpose, so that every soul may be paid back for what it has committed. And none will be wronged.
A profound and deeply personal sign of accountability is then highlighted, one that exists within every human being. Chapter 75 Al-Qiyamah, verse 2.
And I swear by the reproaching soul.
This refers to the inner conscience that reproaches a person when they commit wrongdoing. It is a built-in moral awareness that causes discomfort, regret, and self-criticism after a person acts in a way they recognize as wrong. As long as a person has not completely immersed themselves in a life of persistent wrongdoing, this inner voice remains active and responsive. When a person engages in actions that are widely understood to be wrong, such as deceiving others, they often experience a sense of guilt, even if no one else is aware of their actions. This feeling arises even when they are certain they will not face consequences from society, such as legal punishment or criticism from others. Despite escaping external accountability, they are unable to escape this internal sense of unease. This raises an important question. If there were no ultimate accountability, why would such a powerful sense of guilt exist within human beings? The presence of this inner reproach suggests that human beings are created with an awareness of right and wrong that goes beyond social conditioning or external enforcement. This conscience is connected to the soul, which carries a deeper awareness of truth. Chapter 7 Al-Araf, verse 172.
And mention when your Lord took from the children of Adam from their loins their descendants and made them testify of themselves, saying to them, Am I not your Lord? They said, Yes, we have testified.
This verse indicates that the soul has already acknowledged the truth of its Creator and its ultimate accountability. Even if a person consciously denies or ignores this reality, a trace of that awareness remains within them. It manifests as the conscience that reproaches them when they act against what is right. The feeling of guilt, therefore, is not random or meaningless. It is a reminder from within, alerting a person that their actions are not aligned with their true purpose. It serves as an internal warning system, encouraging reflection, correction, and a return to what is right. However, this inner voice can be weakened over time. If a person repeatedly ignores their conscience and continues to engage in wrongdoing, the sense of guilt may gradually diminish. Eventually, they may reach a point where they no longer feel any remorse for their actions. This does not mean their actions are justified. Rather, it indicates that their conscience has become suppressed through repeated neglect. For this reason, it is essential for a person to pay attention to their conscience while it is still active. They should reflect on its purpose and recognize it as a sign pointing towards the reality of accountability. Instead of dismissing it, they should respond to it by correcting their behavior and striving to align their actions with what is right. Chapter 75 Al-Qiyamah, verse 2.
And I swear by the reproaching soul.
By listening to this inner reproach and acting upon it, a person is more likely to take practical steps to prepare for their accountability. This involves using the blessings they have been granted in ways that are pleasing to Allah, the Exalted, as outlined in the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Through this, they move towards a life of awareness, balance, and readiness for what lies ahead. Allah, the Exalted, reminds humanity of His absolute power by directing their attention to their own origin and creation. The one who created human beings from nothing is certainly able to bring them back to life after they have turned to dust and bones. Chapter 75 Al-Qiyamah, verses 3-4.
Does man think that we will not assemble his bones? Yes. We are able even to proportion his fingertips.
This verse challenges the assumption that resurrection is difficult or impossible. From a human perspective, the idea of reconstructing a body after it has completely decomposed may seem unimaginable. However, this perception is based on limited human understanding. For Allah, the Exalted, who brought creation into existence from nothing, restoring it is not only possible but effortless. The verse draws attention specifically to the fingertips, which may appear to be a minor and insignificant part of the human body. Yet this detail carries profound meaning. It indicates that resurrection will not be partial or approximate, but precise and complete. Every detail of a person's physical form will be restored exactly as it was. It is noteworthy that the fingertips are among the most unique features of the human body. Modern discoveries have shown that each person's fingerprints are entirely distinct, with no two individuals sharing the same pattern. This uniqueness allows individuals to be identified with precision. The verse's reference to fingertips highlights that Allah, the Exalted, has complete knowledge and control over even the most intricate details of His creation. This demonstrates that resurrection is not merely about bringing people back to life in a general sense, but about restoring them fully and accurately, preserving their identity. Every individual will be recreated in a way that perfectly corresponds to their previous existence, ensuring that accountability is just and exact. The mention of such a specific detail also serves to remove any doubt regarding the possibility of resurrection. If even the smallest and most intricate aspects of the human body can be perfectly reconstructed, then the restoration of the entire body is even more certain. Ultimately, this verse reinforces the certainty of accountability. The one who created human beings with such precision and detail will also resurrect them with the same precision. This ensures that every person will stand on the day of judgment exactly as they were, ready to answer for their actions. Beyond this clear sign, Allah, the Exalted, has placed countless examples of resurrection throughout creation itself, allowing people to witness its reality repeatedly across time. These signs are not rare or hidden, rather they are constant and observable, appearing in daily life, in the changing seasons, and across generations. Their consistency leaves little room for doubt, except for those who choose not to reflect. One of the most evident signs is seen when rain falls upon barren land. Ground that appears lifeless, dry, and devoid of any growth is suddenly revived. From soil that seemed incapable of supporting life, plants emerge, greenery spreads, and the land becomes a source of sustenance. Seeds that once appeared dry and lifeless absorb water, split open, and produce vegetation. This transformation demonstrates that life can emerge from what appears to be complete lifelessness. If Allah, the Exalted, brings life back to the earth in this way, then resurrecting human beings, who are also returned to the ground, is clearly within His power. The changing of the seasons provides another continuous reminder. During winter, trees appear lifeless, stripped of their leaves and color, giving the impression of death. Yet with the arrival of spring, they are revived. Leaves return, flowers bloom, and landscapes that once seemed empty are filled with life again. This cycle repeats year after year, serving as a clear and ongoing demonstration of renewal after apparent death. Even within the human body, a form of renewal is constantly taking place. Cells are continuously replaced, tissues are renewed, and the body undergoes ongoing transformation. Although this process is gradual and often unnoticed, it reflects the reality that restoration and renewal are inherent aspects of human existence. Other aspects of creation further reinforce this pattern. A caterpillar enters a state where it appears inactive and lifeless, only to emerge later in a completely transformed form. Certain plants remain dormant for long periods, yet revive quickly when conditions change. Forests that are destroyed can eventually regenerate, with new growth emerging from what once appeared ruined. Some animals enter deep states of inactivity, resembling lifelessness, yet return to full activity when conditions become suitable again. Even beyond the earth, the wider universe reflects this pattern. Celestial bodies undergo cycles of change, where what appears to be an end becomes the beginning of something new. This continuous transformation across creation points towards a consistent principle. What appears to be an end is often a transition to renewal. The daily cycle of sleep and wakefulness also serves as a subtle but powerful reminder. During sleep, a person's awareness is withdrawn and their senses become inactive. It resembles a temporary state of lifelessness. Yet upon waking, awareness is restored and life continues. This repeated experience serves as a small-scale example of return after a state resembling absence. Chapter 39 Az-Zumar, verse 42.
Allah takes the souls at the time of their death, and those that do not die He takes during their sleep. Then He keeps those for which He has decreed death, and releases the others for a specified term. Indeed, in that are signs for a people who give thought.
These signs, taken together, form a consistent pattern that points towards the reality of resurrection. They demonstrate that bringing life from lifelessness is not something unfamiliar or unprecedented, but something that occurs regularly within creation. For the one who reflects, these examples strengthen certainty that resurrection is not only possible, but inevitable. They remove doubt by showing that the same principle is already present in countless forms. This understanding encourages a person to prepare for the day of judgment by using the blessings they have been granted in ways that are pleasing to Allah, the Exalted, as outlined in the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Through this reflection, a person moves from observation to certainty, and from certainty to action. The reluctance to prepare for accountability is then exposed as being rooted in desire rather than a lack of evidence. Chapter 75 Al-Qiyamah, verse 5.
Rather, man desires to continue in sin.
This verse reveals a fundamental reality about human behavior. Many people do not reject guidance because it is unclear or unconvincing, but because accepting it would require them to change their way of life. Obeying Allah, the Exalted, often involves restraining desires, setting limits, and prioritizing long-term success over immediate gratification. For those who are deeply attached to their desires, this becomes difficult, so they choose to ignore or reject the guidance instead, even if they verbally claim to believe in it. In essence, when a person turns away from the divine code of conduct and adopts systems created by human beings, it is often done to justify and accommodate their own inclinations. Human-made systems are inevitably influenced by personal desires, ambitions, and biases. They may appear structured and appealing, but at their core, they reflect the limitations and preferences of those who design them. As a result, they cannot consistently ensure justice, balance, and long-term well-being. In contrast, the guidance of Allah the Exalted is rooted in perfect knowledge, wisdom, justice, and mercy. It sets boundaries that protect individuals and society, even if those boundaries restrict certain desires. These limits are not meant to burden people, but to preserve balance and prevent harm. This issue becomes even more pronounced among those who possess wealth, influence, or authority. Such individuals may recognize the truth as divine guidance, but hesitate to accept it because it would require them to surrender aspects of their control. Accepting this guidance would place limits on how they use their power, how they acquire and spend wealth, and how they treat others. It would prevent exploitation, excess, and injustice, things that may currently benefit them in the short term. Out of fear of losing their position or privileges, they may not only reject the truth themselves, but also influence others to do the same. In doing so, they attempt to preserve their worldly standing, even though it comes at the cost of their long-term success. This pattern has been repeated throughout history. Those in positions of power have often been among the first to oppose the message of the holy prophets, peace be upon them. Their opposition was rarely due to a lack of clarity or evidence. Rather, it was driven by pride, arrogance, and a reluctance to give up control. This demonstrates that the rejection of truth is often not an intellectual issue, but a matter of the heart. A person may understand what is right, yet still refuse to follow it because it conflicts with their desires or challenges their sense of independence. Therefore, the verse directs attention to the real obstacle, the unwillingness to restrain oneself. Recognizing this helps a person to address the root of the problem. Instead of questioning the validity of guidance, they must examine their own attachment to desires. Overcoming this requires sincerity and self-discipline. A person must be willing to prioritize what is right over what is easy, and what is beneficial over what is immediately pleasing. By doing so, they move beyond denial and begin to prepare for their accountability, using the blessings they have been granted in ways that are pleasing to Allah, the Exalted, as outlined in the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. This will enable them to attain equilibrium in both their mental and physical states, while ensuring that they assign everything and everyone their proper place within their lives, all the while preparing appropriately for their accountability on the Day of Judgment. Such conduct will ultimately result in inner tranquility and peace of mind in both this world and the hereafter. The conduct of the leaders in Mecca is then presented as an example of a recurring pattern seen across generations. Their attempts to weaken the message were not driven by a genuine search for truth, but by a fear of losing status, influence, and authority. One of their methods was to question the timing of the Day of Judgment, seeking a precise date as a condition for acceptance. Chapter 75 Al-Qiyamah, verse 6.
He asks, when is the day of resurrection?
This question was not asked in sincerity, but as a means of rejection. When they were not given a specific answer, they used this absence as a justification to deny the reality altogether. However, this reasoning is flawed. The absence of knowledge about the timing of an event does not negate the event itself. Just as people are unaware of the exact moment of death, yet fully accept that death is inevitable, the same applies to the Day of Judgment. The certainty of an event is not dependent on knowing its exact timing. The wisdom behind concealing the exact timing of such events lies in maintaining a constant state of awareness and readiness. If people knew the exact time of their death or the Day of Judgment, many would delay preparation, assuming there is still time. This would lead to neglect, complacency, and ultimately loss. Instead, uncertainty encourages consistent effort and continual self-improvement. Chapter 7 Al-Araf, verse 187.
It lays heavily upon the heavens and the earth. It will not come upon you except unexpectedly.
In a similar way, the idea of demanding to see everything before believing is also addressed in Islamic teachings. Some individuals claim they would only accept guidance if they could directly witness unseen realities, such as the existence of angels or the nature of the unseen world. However, this stance misunderstands the nature and purpose of faith. True faith involves accepting reality beyond what can be perceived through the five senses, even when such realities are supported by clear signs and evidence. The existence of creation itself points to a creator, especially when it displays precision, balance, and order. The presence of such signs in the universe indicates that they are not random, but the result of deliberate design. At the same time, people routinely accept and rely on things they cannot fully perceive or understand. For example, many use medicines without knowing the detailed mechanisms by which they function. They trust the knowledge of experts because the outcomes are evident and beneficial. In a similar but far greater way, the guidance provided through Islam is supported by clear signs, consistent wisdom, and observable benefits, even if some aspects remain unseen. The test of life is therefore not about witnessing everything directly, but about how a person responds to the guidance they receive. A person is tested in their ability to accept truth, act upon it, and restrain their desires, even when they are capable of doing otherwise. This capacity to choose is what gives meaning to the test. If everything were made completely visible and undeniable, there would be no room for testing. Everyone would be forced into belief, and obedience would lose its value. The opportunity to choose between acceptance and rejection is what allows for accountability and distinction between individuals. For this reason, Allah the Exalted has sent messengers and revealed the Holy Quran to provide guidance while still allowing space for choice. Reality has been presented with sufficient clarity to guide those who reflect, yet not to the extent that belief becomes compulsory. If the unseen were fully revealed in this world, the purpose of testing would end. At that point, every person would recognize the truth without hesitation, but it would be too late to benefit from that recognition. The moment when all realities are unveiled, without the possibility of denial, marks the end of the test. That moment is the Day of Judgment. Chapter 75 Al-Qiyamah, verses 7-13.
So when vision and understanding are dazzled, and the moon darkens, and the sun and the moon are joined, the human will say on that day, "Where is the place of escape?" No. There is no refuge. To your Lord that day is the established place. Man will be informed that day of what he sent ahead and kept back.
A person is therefore reminded of the importance of continually evaluating their own actions, since no one is more aware of their deeds than the individual themselves, except Allah the Exalted. When a person engages in honest self-reflection, they become more conscious of their shortcomings and more motivated to seek forgiveness and improve their conduct. This process naturally leads to sincere repentance and a stronger commitment to performing righteous actions, which includes using the blessings granted to them in ways that align with the guidance found in the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. In contrast, a person who neglects this self-assessment begins to live in a state of heedlessness. Over time, this leads to carelessness in how they use their time, abilities, wealth, and other blessings. Instead of directing these blessings toward beneficial and righteous purposes, they are gradually misused or wasted. This lack of accountability to oneself in this world will make the accountability on the Day of Judgment far more difficult, as the individual will be confronted with a record of actions they did not properly reflect upon or correct. A simple worldly example can help illustrate this principle. A wise business owner consistently reviews their accounts, ensures that records are accurate, and prepares properly for any financial obligations. This regular oversight helps the business remain stable, profitable, and compliant. In contrast, a careless business owner neglects these responsibilities, leading to financial loss, errors in reporting, and penalties imposed by authorities. Their failure to stay accountable in this world results in hardship and consequences that could have been avoided. However, the consequences related to one's actions in the context of the Day of Judgment are far more severe than any worldly penalty. While a financial penalty may be difficult to bear, it is temporary and limited. The outcome of neglecting one's deeds in relation to accountability before Allah, the Exalted, is of an entirely different magnitude, as it concerns the eternal outcome of a person's life. Chapter 99 Az-Zalala, verses 7-8.
So whoever does an atom's weight of good will see it. And whoever does an atom's weight of evil will see it.
Beyond avoiding clear wrongdoing, a person is also guided to be attentive to how their time and resources are utilized. Not every action that is allowed necessarily brings benefit or long-term success. A person may spend time in activities that are neither sinful nor explicitly righteous. Yet such actions can still lead to regret when considered in light of accountability on the Day of Judgment. This is because time is a limited blessing, and every moment spent in one pursuit is a moment not spent in another. This is the concept of opportunity cost, time and effort that could have been directed toward righteous actions, remembrance of accountability, self-improvement, or serving others. When this pattern continues over time, these seemingly minor and harmless choices begin to accumulate. A person may not notice the gradual loss of valuable opportunities, but their overall record becomes affected by the consistent absence of meaningful and beneficial actions. A life filled with habitual engagement in vain or unproductive activities can result in a record that lacks sufficient weight in righteous deeds when presented on the Day of Judgment. In such a moment, even a small imbalance between good and bad deeds can have a decisive impact on a person's final outcome. This highlights the importance of valuing every moment and recognizing that even small actions carry significance when they are evaluated with perfect justice. Accountability in this context is not limited to external observation, as the person themselves will serve as a witness to their own actions. Chapter 75 Al-Qiyamah, verse 14.
Rather, man against himself will be a witness.
And chapter 24 An-Nur, verse 24.
On a day when their tongues, their hands, and their feet will bear witness against them as to what they used to do.
By prioritizing actions that bring benefit in both this world and the next, a person strengthens their record and increases the weight of their good deeds. This includes acts of remembrance, self-reflection, helping others, and using the blessings granted to them in ways that are pleasing to Allah, the Exalted, as outlined in the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Even though Allah, the Exalted, does not require perfection from people, a person must remain honest with themselves about their actual level of effort and sincerity. It is possible for someone to assume they are preparing for accountability, while, in reality, they continue to neglect their responsibilities and misuse the blessings granted to them. Such self-deception is dangerous because it creates a false sense of security, allowing a person to feel reassured while their actions remain inconsistent with what is required of them. A person in this state often becomes skilled at producing excuses to justify their shortcomings. They may claim that they are trying their best, even when their actions do not reflect genuine effort or discipline. However, these justifications do not change the reality of their conduct. A person is ultimately responsible for how they use the abilities, time, and opportunities that have been given to them. Since Allah, the Exalted, does not burden a person beyond their capacity, every individual is fully capable of fulfilling their obligations if they sincerely apply themselves. The consequences of persistent negligence cannot be avoided through excuses. A person may attempt to rationalize their behavior, but on the Day of Judgment, such justifications will not hold weight. The truth of a person's actions will become evident, and their own testimony will confirm their reality. Chapter 75 Al-Qiyamah, verses 14 to 15.
Rather, man against himself will be a witness, even though he throws out his excuses.
This serves as a reminder that genuine preparation requires more than intention or verbal claims. It requires consistent action, self-discipline, and a willingness to correct one's behavior. A person must regularly examine themselves, identify their shortcomings, and actively work to improve. Without this honest self-assessment, a person risks falling into complacency while believing they are on the right path. In contrast, a person who is truthful with themselves will recognize their faults, take responsibility for their actions, and strive to improve. This includes using the blessings they have been granted in ways that are pleasing to Allah, the Exalted, and avoiding the misuse of those blessings in both major and minor matters. Ultimately, accountability is not based on claims or appearances, but on reality. A person's deeds will reflect their true effort, and their own actions will testify to their sincerity. By acknowledging this truth and acting upon it, a person can move away from self-deception and toward genuine preparation for their accountability, guided by the teachings found in the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. The subsequent verses further emphasize that Allah, the Exalted, does not require absolute perfection from individuals. Instead, He expects them to strive for gradual improvement, refining their conduct over time by acquiring knowledge and consistently applying the teachings of Islam in their daily lives. This approach recognizes human limitations while encouraging sincere effort, patience, and continual moral and spiritual growth. Chapter 75 Al-Qiyamah, verses 16.
Move not your tongue with it to hasten with recitation of the Quran. Indeed, upon us is its collection in your heart, and to make possible its recitation. So when we have recited it, then follow its recitation. Then upon us is its clarification.
These words illustrate an important lesson about the manner in which divine guidance should be received. The instruction to not hasten the recitation indicates that understanding and internalization should take priority over speed. A person is being guided to approach the Holy Quran with attentiveness, patience, and reflection, rather than rushing through it without truly comprehending its meaning. The assurance that the preservation, arrangement, and clarity of the message are guaranteed by Allah, the Exalted, emphasizes that the responsibility of the individual is to receive, reflect, and act. A person is not required to produce or perfect the message themselves, rather, they are required to follow it once it is made clear to them. This relieves the burden of perfection, while still placing responsibility on the individual to respond correctly to guidance. The instruction to follow the recitation, after it has been conveyed, reinforces the importance of obedience after understanding. It is not sufficient to merely hear or read the guidance. A person must translate that knowledge into action. This step-by-step process, receiving, understanding, and then implementing, reflects a gradual path of improvement rather than an expectation of immediate perfection. Furthermore, the promise that clarification is also from Allah, the Exalted, indicates that understanding is granted through His guidance. This means that a person who sincerely seeks to understand and apply the teachings will be assisted in gaining clarity, enabling them to act correctly. This reinforces the idea that both knowledge and guidance are ultimately granted by Allah, the Exalted, and that a person's role is to sincerely engage with what they are given. This approach aligns with the broader principle that a person is expected to strive, not to be flawless. A person may make mistakes, but what matters is that they continue to learn, correct themselves, and improve their conduct over time. By doing so, they demonstrate sincerity and a willingness to align their life with the guidance provided in the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. This understanding removes the pressure of unattainable perfection, while maintaining the responsibility of consistent effort. It encourages a person to remain engaged, to reflect deeply, and to act upon what they learn, thereby progressing steadily toward a balanced and righteous way of living. The challenge faced by a person is then made clear: understanding and acting upon the guidance found in the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, often requires restraining one's desires. This is why many people choose to follow systems of conduct that are shaped by their own inclinations, even if those systems only provide short-term gratification. In contrast, the divine code of conduct prioritizes long-term success, particularly success in the life to come. Chapter 75 Al-Qiyamah, verses 20 to 21.
No. But you love the immediate and leave the hereafter.
These verses highlight a core issue: the preference for immediate, short-lived benefit over lasting, eternal reward. Many people become attached to what is quickly accessible and emotionally satisfying, even if it comes at the cost of long-term well-being. As a result, they neglect preparation for the life after death, despite its certainty and permanence. The traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, further clarify this reality. In a hadith found in Sunan ibn Majah, number 4108, it is stated that the material world compared to the hereafter is like a drop of water compared to an ocean. This comparison is not merely symbolic, but serves to emphasize the vast difference in value between the two. While the material world is limited, temporary, and subject to change, the hereafter is described as eternal and unending. In this sense, the two cannot truly be compared, as one is finite and the other infinite. A finite experience, no matter how enjoyable, cannot outweigh an eternal one. The material world can be understood through several key aspects, such as wealth, status, authority, and personal relationships. Each of these can bring temporary comfort and satisfaction, but none of them are permanent. Wealth can be lost, status can fade, authority can be removed, and relationships are ultimately interrupted by death. In contrast, the rewards of the hereafter are described as enduring, complete, and free from imperfection or loss. Another important factor is the uncertainty of lifespan. A person does not know when their life will end, and therefore cannot guarantee that they will reach any future milestone, such as retirement or old age. Despite this uncertainty, many people dedicate their lives to preparing for these uncertain future moments, while neglecting the certain reality of the hereafter. This reflects a misplacement of priorities, as the hereafter is the one certainty every person will face. From a rational perspective, it is more logical to prioritize what is certain over what is uncertain, and what is eternal over what is temporary. A person who invests all their effort into something they may never reach, while neglecting something they are guaranteed to encounter, is not acting wisely. However, this does not mean that a person should abandon the material world entirely. Instead, the material world is to be viewed as a means rather than an end. It serves as a temporary stage through which a person must pass in order to reach the hereafter. A person is therefore expected to engage with the material world responsibly, fulfilling their needs and the needs of those under their care without excess, waste, or extravagance. At the same time, a person should dedicate their efforts toward preparing for the hereafter by following the commands of Allah, the Exalted, avoiding what has been prohibited, and remaining patient in the face of life's difficulties. This balanced approach ensures that a person neither neglects their worldly responsibilities, nor forgets their ultimate purpose. When a person adopts this way of life, they begin to use their blessings in a manner that is pleasing to Allah, the Exalted. This leads to a state of balance, where both their worldly life and their preparation for the hereafter are aligned with divine guidance. As a result, they are granted a form of peace in this world and a hopeful expectation of reward in the next. Chapter 16 and Nal, verse 97.
Whoever does righteousness, whether male or female, while he is a believer, we will surely cause him to live a good life, and we will surely give them their reward in the hereafter according to the best of what they used to do.
In conclusion, a person who reflects deeply will recognize that it is unwise to prioritize something temporary over something eternal. Just as no one would exchange an entire ocean for a single drop of water, a person should not sacrifice eternal success for fleeting worldly gain. A person who understands this reality will strive to align their life with the guidance of Allah, the Exalted, thereby securing both peace in this world and success in the hereafter, through obtaining a balanced mental and physical state, and through correctly placing everything and everyone within their life. Chapter 75 Al-Qiyamah, verses 22 to 23.
Some faces that day will be radiant, looking at their Lord.
The companions, may Allah be pleased with them, stand as a distinguished group of people, surpassed only by the holy prophets, peace be upon them. Their excellence was not limited to acts of worship alone, but was deeply rooted in their outlook, their priorities, and the direction of their ambitions. What set the companions, may Allah be pleased with them, apart was that their goals were consistently directed toward the hereafter, rather than being focused on temporary worldly gain. Even when one observes their daily lives without considering their acts of worship, it becomes clear that they were a people who truly believed in accountability and the hereafter. Their routine actions reflected a conscious and continuous effort to use the blessings granted to them by Allah, the Exalted, in ways that were pleasing and beneficial for their eternal success. They avoided wasting time on vain matters and stayed away from sinful actions, not only in acts of devotion but in all aspects of their daily conduct. In contrast, if one were to remove the obligatory acts of worship from the life of many people today, their daily routines would not appear significantly different from those who do not believe in accountability. This is often not due to ignorance, but due to a difference in aims and priorities. When a person's aspirations are centered on the material world, their actions naturally reflect that focus, even if they verbally affirm belief. A person should not deceive themselves into assuming they are following the same path as the companions, may Allah be pleased with them. The companions, may Allah be pleased with them, did not separate their religious obligations from their worldly responsibilities. Instead, their entire lives were guided by the teachings of the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. They engaged in trade, supported families, and participated in everyday life, but their actions were always governed by principles that aligned with the pleasure of Allah, the Exalted. Their earning and spending were done in lawful and purposeful ways, avoiding excess, waste, and anything that would not benefit them in the hereafter. In matters of marriage, the companions, may Allah be pleased with them, chose spouses based on faith, character, and responsibility. Their relationships were built upon fulfilling rights and acting with sincerity, rather than being driven by personal desires alone. They made every effort to uphold the rights of their spouses, in accordance with divine guidance. Similarly, when raising their children, the companions, may Allah be pleased with them, prioritized teaching them the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. They instilled in them the importance of accountability, and encouraged them to focus on preparing for the hereafter, by using their blessings in ways that are pleasing to Allah, the Exalted. In contrast, many people today focus primarily on material success, sometimes placing greater emphasis on wealth and possessions than on spiritual and moral development. Although modern people may perform actions that outwardly resemble those of the companions, may Allah be pleased with them, the difference lies in intention and aspiration. When the primary goal of a person is centered on worldly gain, their actions lack the depth and sincerity that characterize the lives of the companions, may Allah be pleased with them. True similarity lies not only in actions, but in the mindset and purpose behind those actions. A person should strive to live in such a way that their daily conduct clearly reflects belief in the hereafter. Their speech, decisions, and use of time should all demonstrate that their priority is to seek the pleasure of Allah, the Exalted. This consistency transforms belief from a statement into a lived reality. This cannot be achieved by limiting such behavior to acts of worship alone. If a person demonstrates awareness only during formal acts of worship, while neglecting it in other aspects of life, then their overall lifestyle does not truly reflect the mindset of prioritizing the hereafter. Instead, a person should aim to carry this awareness into every aspect of their life. This was the defining quality of the companions, may Allah be pleased with them, and it is one of the reasons for their elevated status. Their lives were a continuous reflection of sincerity, discipline, and a deep awareness of accountability, as they consistently used the blessings granted to them in ways that were pleasing to Allah, the Exalted, and avoided using them in vain or sinful ways. If a person continues to give priority to worldly desires and personal ambitions over obedience to Allah, the Exalted, they will inevitably fall into the misuse of the blessings that have been granted to them. Such a pattern of living disrupts balance in their inner state, leading to a lack of harmony between their mental and physical well-being. Without this balance, they begin to misplace priorities, treating relationships, responsibilities, and resources in ways that do not align with their true purpose. As a result, elements of their life that are meant to be sources of comfort and support, such as family, friends, career, and wealth, gradually become sources of stress and dissatisfaction. This is not due to these blessings themselves, but due to the way they are approached and utilized. When a person disconnects from the guidance of Allah, the Exalted, they lose the framework needed to properly manage these aspects of life, leading to imbalance and distress. Over time, this internal instability can lead to misdirected blame. Instead of recognizing their own role in their difficulties, they may attribute their problems to others, such as their spouse or close companions. This misplaced blame can damage important relationships, often resulting in the removal of supportive and righteous individuals from their lives. However, such removal does not resolve the underlying issue. On the contrary, it often deepens the problem as the individual becomes increasingly isolated and disconnected. This growing isolation can contribute to further mental and emotional decline, potentially leading to conditions such as depression, harmful dependencies, and in severe cases, thoughts of self-harm. These outcomes are not the result of external circumstances alone, but of a prolonged pattern of neglecting guidance and misusing the blessings that were meant to bring stability and purpose. This reality can often be observed in individuals who possess wealth, status, or fame. Despite having access to material luxuries, many still experience deep dissatisfaction, anxiety, and instability. This demonstrates that material abundance alone is not sufficient to bring peace of mind. Without proper guidance and correct usage of blessings, even the most outwardly successful life can be filled with inner turmoil. In addition to these worldly consequences, the spiritual consequences are far more severe. A person who persists in this state, without correcting their behavior, will not have properly prepared for their accountability. On the day of judgment, they will face the outcome of their choices, and the reality of their situation will become fully apparent. Chapter 75 Al-Qiyamah, verses 24 to 25.
And some faces that day will be contorted, expecting that there will be done to them something backbreaking.
Attention is then drawn to a reality even closer and more immediate than the day of judgment, something every person will inevitably face. Chapter 75 Al-Qiyamah, verses 26 to 30.
No. When the soul has reached the collarbones, and it is said, "Who will cure him?" And the dying one is certain that it is the time of separation, and the leg is wound about the leg during burial. To your Lord that day will be the procession.
These verses vividly describe the final moments of a person's life, when death becomes undeniable and all worldly attachments begin to fall away. At that point, a person realizes with certainty that departure from this world has arrived, and no effort, wealth, or connection can delay it. The return to Allah, the Exalted, for accountability, is no longer something distant. It becomes an immediate and unavoidable reality. Since death is certain while its timing remains unknown, it is only rational for a person who believes in the hereafter to prioritize preparation for it, over matters that may never occur. Events such as marriage, children, or retirement are uncertain and not guaranteed, whereas death and the return for accountability are guaranteed for every person. Despite this, many people reverse these priorities, dedicating the majority of their effort toward uncertain worldly outcomes while delaying preparation for the hereafter. This mindset leads to a dangerous form of procrastination. A person convinces themselves that they will begin preparing at a later time, assuming they will have the opportunity to change. However, this delay often continues until death arrives unexpectedly, leaving the person with regret but no ability to correct their actions. At that stage, regret holds no benefit, as the time for action has passed. The key issue is not the certainty of death itself, as this is unavoidable, but whether a person is prepared for it. True preparation lies in living a life of obedience, fulfilling the commands of Allah, the Exalted, avoiding what has been prohibited, and responding to life's circumstances with patience, all in accordance with the teachings found in the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. This will ensure they obtain a balanced mental and physical state, and correctly place everything and everyone within their life, while adequately preparing for their accountability on the day of judgment. This behavior will therefore lead to peace of mind in both worlds. This level of preparation can only be achieved when a person consciously prioritizes the hereafter over temporary and uncertain worldly ambitions. It requires a shift in focus, where daily actions are guided by awareness of accountability, rather than by immediate desires. A further danger lies in applying worldly assumptions to the reality of death. In this life, people often receive multiple chances to correct mistakes, which can lead to the false belief that opportunities will always remain available. However, death does not operate in this way. When it arrives, there is no delay, no extension, and no second opportunity to return and act differently. It is also important to recognize that a person will die in the state in which they lived. If a person lives in heedlessness, neglecting preparation for the hereafter, then that is the condition in which death will reach them. Likewise, they will be resurrected in that same state. This is why consistent awareness and effort are essential, rather than occasional or delayed action. This reality is supported by a hadith found in Sahih Muslim, number 7232, which indicates that a person will be raised in accordance with the state in which they passed away. Therefore, a person should not delay preparation or rely on future intentions. Instead, they should take immediate steps to align their life with obedience to Allah, the Exalted, ensuring that every blessing they possess is used correctly. By doing so, they prepare not only for the moment of death but for what follows it, securing peace of mind in this world and success in the hereafter. Allah, the Exalted, then portrays the condition of a person who either openly rejects Islamic teachings or lives in contradiction to them, even while claiming belief, because those teachings conflict with their personal desires and ambitions. Chapter 75 Al-Qiyamah, verses 31 to 33.
And he did not confirm the truth, nor had he prayed. But instead he denied and turned away. And then he went to his people, swaggering.
These verses clarify a crucial reality. Failing to affirm the truth through action is, in essence, a form of denial. When a person does not translate belief into practice, such as establishing the obligatory prayers, it indicates that their acceptance of the truth is only superficial. Even if they verbally acknowledge faith, their behavior reflects rejection and avoidance. This highlights the distinction between outward identification in this world and true accountability in the hereafter. In worldly terms, a person is recognized according to their verbal declaration. However, on Judgment Day, every individual will be judged by Allah, the Exalted, based on their inner reality, something hidden from people but fully known to Him. Therefore, a person may be regarded as a person of faith in this world, yet if their actions consistently contradict their claim, it may indicate an absence of genuine faith within. As a result, their outcome in the hereafter will reflect their true condition rather than their outward identity. Furthermore, persistently neglecting to support one's claim of faith with action places a person in serious danger. Faith is not static. It requires continual strengthening through obedience and sincere effort. It can be compared to a fragile flame that must be constantly fueled. When that fuel, good deeds, remembrance and obedience, is withheld, the flame begins to weaken. If this neglect continues, it may eventually be extinguished altogether. This gradual decline is often unnoticed. A person may begin by neglecting small obligations or delaying acts of obedience, but over time, this develops into a pattern of heedlessness. As this state deepens, the heart becomes less responsive to guidance, and the connection with Allah, the Exalted, weakens further. Eventually, the person may reach a stage where faith no longer influences their decisions or behavior. Such a loss is the most severe a person can face, as it removes the very foundation needed for success in the hereafter. Chapter 75 Al-Qiyamah, verses 34 to 35.
Woe to you, and woe! Then woe to you, and woe!
In order to be protected from this outcome, a person must ensure that their verbal declaration of faith is supported by consistent action. The most important of these actions, as indicated in the verse, is the establishment of the obligatory prayers, which serve as the central foundation of a person's obedience. The emphasis placed on prayer within Islamic teachings is not without reason. It is the core around which all other righteous actions revolve, and the primary means through which a person maintains their connection with Allah, the Exalted. Through it, a person is able to remain firm upon guidance and continually renew their commitment to obedience. However, true prayer is not limited to outward movements. Rather, it is an act of humility, awareness, and reflection that connects a person to the reality of the hereafter and their inevitable accountability. This depth in prayer is achieved when a person understands that each posture within it reflects scenes from the Day of Judgment, serving as a constant reminder of what lies ahead. The distribution of the 5 daily prayers across the day further reinforces this purpose, as each one acts as a pause in daily life, an opportunity to realign one's intentions and actions with divine guidance. When a person stands in prayer, they should reflect on the moment when all people will stand before Allah, the Exalted, for judgment. Chapter 83 Al-Mutaffifin, verses 4-6.
Do they not think that they will be resurrected? For a tremendous day, the day when mankind will stand before the Lord of the worlds.
When a person bows, it should remind them of those who will be criticized for refusing to bow in obedience during their lives. Chapter 77 Al-Mursalat, verse 48.
And when it is said to them, bow in prayer, they do not bow.
This reminder extends beyond the physical act, encompassing the broader concept of submission, living in accordance with the commands of Allah, the Exalted, in every aspect of life. When a person prostrates, they should reflect on the reality that on Judgment Day, people will be called to prostrate once again. However, those who failed to truly submit during their lives will find themselves unable to do so. Chapter 68 Al-Kalam, verses 42-43.
On the day when matters become dire, they will be invited to prostrate themselves but will be prevented from doing so. Their eyes humbled, humiliation will cover them. And they used to be invited to prostration while they were sound.
When a person sits during the prayer, it should remind them of how all people will be gathered in a state of humility and fear, awaiting their final judgment. Chapter 45 Al-Jatiyah, verse 28.
And you will see every nation kneeling from fear. Every nation will be called to its record and told, today you will be recompensed for what you used to do.
When prayer is performed with this level of awareness and reflection, it transforms from a routine act into a powerful means of spiritual reform. It strengthens sincerity and ensures that a person remains conscious of their purpose beyond the moments of prayer itself. As a result, such a person will naturally be guided towards obedience throughout the rest of their day. Their actions, speech, and decisions will begin to reflect the discipline and awareness cultivated in prayer. Chapter 29 Al-Ankabut, verse 45.
Indeed, prayer prohibits immorality and wrongdoing.
Through this continuous cycle of reflection and realignment, a person learns to use every blessing they have been granted in ways that are pleasing to Allah, the Exalted, as outlined in the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. A further warning is given regarding harmful companionship, as it plays a significant role in preventing a person from accepting and acting upon Islamic teachings. A person may be misled into believing that their social circle will support or protect them, while in reality, it gradually distances them from obedience. Chapter 75 Al-Qiyamah, verses 31-33.
And he did not confirm the truth, nor had he prayed. But instead he denied and turned away. And then he went to his people, swaggering.
This description highlights how a person not only turns away from the truth, but does so with confidence, strengthened by the approval and influence of their companions. Instead of feeling concern over their behavior, they feel reassured and even proud, as their environment normalizes disobedience and neglect. Human beings are naturally shaped by those they associate with. Their thinking, behavior, and emotional responses are all influenced, sometimes immediately and sometimes gradually, by the people around them. Because of this, companionship is never neutral. It either elevates a person or pulls them away from what is right. This reality was clearly explained by the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, in a hadith found in Sunan Abu Dawood, number 4833. He described how a person is affected by their companions in the same way someone who spends time in a place of fragrance carries a pleasant scent, while someone who stays near smoke becomes affected by it. In the same way, a person inevitably absorbs the qualities, attitudes, and behaviors of those they keep close. When a person surrounds themselves with those who are sincere and mindful of their accountability, they are naturally encouraged towards humility, obedience, and reflection. Such companions remind them of their responsibilities, guide them towards using their blessings correctly, and motivate them to prepare for the day of judgment. Through this environment, a person develops balance within themselves, mentally, physically, and spiritually, and moves towards a life of clarity, purpose, and inner peace. In contrast, when a person associates with those who are heedless or driven by desires, the effect is equally powerful but destructive. This influence often begins subtly, with small compromises and gradual shifts in behavior. Over time, however, it weakens a person's awareness of Allah, the Exalted, and erodes their sense of accountability. As this continues, they begin to adopt similar habits, misusing their blessings, neglecting their duties, and prioritizing temporary desires over lasting success. This decline leads to a deeper internal imbalance. A person begins to lose clarity between right and wrong, misplaces priorities, and mishandles relationships. Even if they achieve outward success or comfort, they experience inner unrest. Their heart becomes unsettled, their mind burdened, and their life filled with dissatisfaction. The absence of spiritual grounding cannot be replaced by material gain. The consequences of such companionship are not limited to this world. They extend into the hereafter, where the impact of these choices becomes fully apparent. A person may then realize that those they relied upon neither benefited them nor shared in their accountability. Chapter 75 Al-Qiyamah, verses 34 to 35.
Woe to you and woe. Then woe to you and woe.
On the other hand, choosing righteous companionship leads to the opposite outcome. It strengthens faith, refines character, and prepares a person for lasting success. It nurtures a sense of responsibility, promotes correct use of blessings, and helps a person remain focused on their ultimate purpose. For this reason, a wise person is careful in selecting their companions. They seek those whose presence reminds them of Allah, the Exalted, whose behavior encourages obedience, and whose character inspires them to remain firm upon the truth. Through such companionship, a person safeguards their faith and builds a path towards peace of mind in this world and success in the hereafter. Allah, the Exalted, then rebukes those who assume that human existence is without direction, accountability, or purpose. Chapter 75 Al-Qiyamah, verse 36.
Does man think that he will be left neglected?
This verse challenges the notion that a person can live without responsibility, consequence, or ultimate return. It exposes the flaw in believing that life unfolds aimlessly, with no final reckoning. In reality, such a belief strips existence of its true meaning. If there were no judgment day and no hereafter, then life in this world would be reduced to a temporary cycle with no lasting outcome. Every achievement, whether wealth, status, knowledge, or relationships, would ultimately fade. A person would either lose these things during their lifetime, or be separated from them at death. In such a framework, all effort would lead to a conclusion of loss, rendering even the greatest accomplishments insignificant. However, the certainty of Judgment Day transforms this reality entirely. It elevates human existence from something temporary and fragile into something purposeful and enduring. Every action, no matter how small, becomes meaningful because it contributes to a permanent outcome. Acts of patience, sacrifice, and obedience are no longer limited to short-term results. They become investments in an eternal future. Through this perspective, life is no longer a random sequence of events. Instead, it becomes a structured journey. Every difficulty is a test, every blessing is a responsibility, and every moment is an opportunity to prepare for what is to come. This understanding brings clarity and direction, as a person no longer lives merely to gain or enjoy, but to fulfill a higher purpose. The belief in accountability also ensures that justice is ultimately established. In this world, many injustices remain unresolved. Those who oppress others may escape consequences, while those who suffer may not receive full compensation. Without a final judgment, this imbalance would remain permanent. But the promise of accountability guarantees that every action will be addressed with complete fairness. No good deed will be overlooked, and no wrongdoing will go unanswered. This assurance brings stability to the human heart. It allows a person to endure hardship with patience, knowing that their struggle is not wasted. It also restrains wrongdoing, as a person remains aware that nothing escapes accountability. In this way, belief in the hereafter gives weight to values such as truth, sincerity, patience, and compassion, as they are no longer temporary ideals but enduring principles with lasting consequences. Therefore, the hereafter is not simply a continuation of existence, it is the very foundation that gives this worldly life its meaning. Without it, life would be directionless and ultimately empty. With it, every moment gains significance, and every action becomes part of a greater purpose that extends beyond the limits of this temporary world. Allah, the Exalted, then reminds people that their existence in this world is not without purpose, and that they will be held accountable for how they fulfill it. As evidence, He directs attention to the precise and gradual stages of human development. Just as each cell, tissue, and organ within the human body is formed in a structured manner and assigned a specific role and function, so too has each person been created with a defined purpose in this world, to successfully undergo and pass the test of life. Chapter 75 Al-Qiyamah, verses 37 to 39.
Had he not been a sperm from semen emitted? Then he was a clinging clot, and he created his form and proportioned him, and made of him two mates, the male and the female.
This test revolves around how a person chooses to use the blessings granted to them by Allah, the Exalted, in accordance with Islamic teachings. Every ability, resource, and opportunity a person possesses is part of this examination, and their success depends on whether these are used in a manner that is pleasing to Him. Those who succeed in this test demonstrate this through their conduct. By aligning their actions with divine guidance, they develop balance within themselves, mentally and physically, and are able to organize their lives correctly. They place priorities in their proper order, fulfill the rights of others, and remain conscious of their ultimate return. This consistent awareness ensures that they actively prepare for their accountability on the Day of Judgment. As a result, they experience a sense of stability and tranquility, leading to genuine peace of mind not only in this world but also in the next. In contrast, those who fail this test misuse the blessings they have been given, either through neglect or deliberate disobedience. This misuse leads to internal imbalance, affecting both their mental and physical state. Their priorities become distorted, causing them to misplace what truly matters in life, whether in their relationships, ambitions, or daily decisions. Because they are not focused on their ultimate accountability, they fail to prepare for it adequately. This condition results in ongoing stress, difficulty, and dissatisfaction. Even if such a person appears to possess comfort or luxury outwardly, their inner state remains unsettled. Their life lacks true harmony and direction, and the consequences of this failure extend beyond this world into the hereafter, where the reality of their neglect becomes fully apparent. This chapter concludes by directing attention to a decisive and undeniable reality. Regardless of whether a person accepts or rejects their purpose, they cannot escape the power of the One who created them. Chapter 75 Al-Qiyamah, verse 40.
Is not that Creator able to give life to the dead?
This concluding verse serves as a powerful reminder that the One who brought a person into existence from nothing, and then developed them through precise and deliberate stages, certainly possesses the ability to bring them back to life after death. The process of initial creation itself stands as clear evidence of resurrection. Recreating something that has already existed is not more difficult than bringing it into existence for the first time. The verse therefore removes any doubt regarding accountability. If a person reflects on their own origin, how they were created, shaped, and sustained, it becomes clear that resurrection is not only possible but inevitable. The same power that governed their creation continues to govern all aspects of existence, including life after death. This reminder also reinforces the reality that denial does not alter the truth. A person may choose to ignore their purpose or neglect preparation for what lies ahead, but this choice does not prevent the final outcome. The return to Allah, the Exalted, and the reckoning of deeds will occur regardless of one's attitude towards it. Thus, the chapter ends by bringing the discussion back to its central theme, accountability. It calls a person to reflect deeply on their origin, and recognize that the one who created them with such precision will not leave them without being questioned. This realization should encourage a person to act responsibly, using the blessings they have been granted in ways that lead to success, so that when they are brought back to life, they are prepared to face their reckoning with hope rather than regret. Therefore, a person must embrace and act upon Islamic teachings for their own benefit, even when they conflict with personal desires and inclinations. This requires adopting the mindset of a wise patient, who trusts and follows the guidance of a skilled doctor. Such a patient accepts difficult treatments and strict instructions, fully aware that they are essential for recovery and long-term well-being, even if they are uncomfortable in the moment. In the same way, the one who sincerely follows Islamic teachings, despite the challenge they may present, ultimately attains true balance in both their mental and physical state. This is because only Allah, the Exalted, possesses complete and perfect knowledge of human nature. He alone fully understands every aspect of a person's inner and outer condition, their strengths and weaknesses, and the complexities of their life. As a result, He alone is able of providing guidance that enables a person to organize their life correctly, placing everything and everyone in their proper position while achieving stability and peace of mind. In contrast, the knowledge possessed by people, regardless of how advanced it becomes, remains limited. Despite extensive research into human behavior, psychology, and physical health, it cannot provide complete solutions for every challenge a person may face. Human understanding is restricted by limited experience, changing perspectives, and inherent biases. Because of this, it cannot guarantee a life free from stress, nor can it ensure that a person consistently makes correct decisions in every situation. Allah, the Exalted, however, has granted the complete and perfect guidance required for success through the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. When a person observes those who live according to this guidance and those who do not, the difference becomes clear. Those who use their blessings correctly find balance, clarity, and purpose, while those who misuse them often experience confusion, imbalance, and dissatisfaction, regardless of outward success. Unlike the example of a patient who may follow medical advice without fully understanding its underlying science, Allah, the Exalted, does not call people to blind acceptance. Instead, He invites them to reflect, to think, and to recognize the truth through clear signs and evidence. Chapter 12 Yusuf, verse 108.
Say, this is my way, I invite to Allah with insight, I and those who follow me.
This demonstrates that divine guidance is grounded in clarity and understanding, not blind imitation. However, recognizing this truth requires a person to approach it with sincerity, free from prejudice and arrogance. Furthermore, true peace of mind ultimately lies under the control of Allah, the Exalted, as He alone governs the hearts of people. He grants tranquility to whom He wills and withholds it from whom He wills. Chapter 53 and Najm, verse 43.
And that it is He who makes one laugh and weep.
It becomes clear then that true tranquility is granted to those who use the blessings they have been given in the correct way, according to Islamic teachings. By doing so, they fulfill their purpose, maintain balance within their lives, and prepare for their ultimate return, thereby achieving success and peace in both this world and the hereafter. Chapter 16 and Nahl, verse 97.
Whoever does righteousness, whether male or female, while he is a believer, we will surely cause him to live a good life, and we will surely give them their reward in the hereafter according to the best of what they used to do.
All praise is due to Allah, Lord of the worlds, and may peace and blessings be upon His final messenger, Muhammad, his noble family and companions.